You wait now. Okay, we'll go ahead and start the meeting. Dan O'Neill, our mayor, is absent tonight, serving as pro tem. John Farlinger, myself, will be running this meeting. So I'll call the meeting to order. So we will do first off, we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which is one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Move on to our civility pledge. We pledge to promote civility by listening, being respectful of others, and acknowledging that we are all striving to support our community. Begin with roll call. Duncan.
Here.
Farlinger, here. Gabriel, here. Kramer, here. Whitehead,
Here.
Perfecting and approving the agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda?
There's no changes.
Second. I'll second it. Duncan,
Yes.
Farlinger, yes. Gabriel,
Yes.
Kramer,
Yes.
Whitehead.
Yes.
Now we'll move on to citizen speak. This is a time for citizens to speak about something that isn't on the agenda. Is there anybody that is here to speak that is about something that is not on the agenda? Okay, you will have 3 minutes to talk to us. Please give us your name and address.
My name is Antonia Tony Russo, 103 East 4th Street in Solon. I'm sorry, but I have a little throat. I'll be quick. I was just at the post office. I don't have anything prepared to say. And I saw this meeting and I'm surprised at the number of people that are here. I'm not prepared, but I'm going to say it anyway. I've been opposing in Solon, many of us have, for going on 7 years. We spoke out against the water issue. Someone drove by this summer and stopped, got out of his car and said to me, you know, everyone's been laughing at you guys for going on 7 years. I said, I know. And then he said, no one is laughing about water anymore. The point that I want to make tonight, I'm not talking about the Watts development, but that's why I came. Another 40 acres. I've not seen any costs, any projected employee requirements, any impact of roads. We're told to come back and talk. There'll be a public hearing. It's too late, Counselor. It's too late. You will have already decided it. What I want to say to you tonight, and I've been not prepared it, but I will before I talk, hopefully, to Cammie. We have a growth and a building, and I think something else, committee. I want to propose to this council that you have a new committee, or you add on to building and growth, and sustainability. And you can laugh at me. And 10 years from now, nobody's going to be laughing. Every community that I can think of, I don't have a list for this council. I will. Johnson County has a P&Z in sustainability, which is a joke. I digress. Cedar Rapids, Lynn County, any number of small counties in Johnson County are getting together, the school, from the church, women's club, neighborhoods, and they're talking about how we can live in a better, more responsible way. Not just the traffic and the impact with the Watts coming from the north now and from the west that we've not even looked at. Not just traffic, but our use of our water, our air quality, more sidewalks for walking, encouraging a whole different way of living in a community. And I wrote a letter, I just found it tonight, some years ago, about the Watts development, and I said, time to redefine progress. Growth is not progress. Growth is neutral, depends on how it impacts your infrastructure, your costs, your environment, your community. It's neutral. And we have to start controlling the growth in the direction that is responsible and is a progress. The whole country, the whole world is looking at water shortages, incredible weather changes, overwhelming insurance, the insurance business. The whole world is looking at how we live. Johnson County is a liberal, wealthy, educated, Democratic Board of Supervisors. And they're rubber stamping developments every chance they get. I'm sorry?
That your time is back.
I apologize. I would ask officially for the record that we have a meeting where we begin to talk about adding sustainability to one of the existing committees as soon as possible. Thank you for your time. Sorry, I'm not well prepared. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments for citizen speak? Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. We've got the approval of minutes from January 17th, the approval of bills, treasurer's report transfers, building permits, which it appears there was one, and the event for the Optimist Easter egg hunt on 3/30/24. Is there anybody here from the Optimist Club that wanted to talk about that, or is there any concern with that? Okay, any questions for the consent agenda? Any motion for the consent agenda?
I'll second.
Moved by Gabriel, second by Whitehead. Duncan,
Yes.
Marlinger, yes. Gabriel, yes. Kramer, yes. Whitehead.
Yes.
Fire department report. Is there any report on that? No. All right, sheriff's report, you got anything for us?
I do not, sir. Do you have anything to me?
Anybody got anything for the sheriff's department? Thanks for being here, appreciate it. Scott, Public Works.
The biggest thing that I can let you guys be aware of is we've had two different water leaks. Both of them were not a water main break for today. But yet they identified as that, and the one was the line coming off of well number 2, and it ties into the distribution system. There's a valve right there. That valve has a plug on the top part, 3/4 inch pipe plug. And that had rotted itself off. And of course, we had water coming up out of the ground, thinking it was a water main break, had Lynch Excavating come in, do the excavation. That's what we found. We were able to actually just put another plug back in its place, and everything is good. Then just found last week. This had to do with well number 3, and it was the actual at the head of the well, the wellhead itself. It is the pipe that comes out of that well that ties into our line going to the treatment plant. And that is a homemade piece by the well company. They were typically made out of steel, and it had actually corroded and caused a leak. Northway Well and Pump came up, manufactured another one on site out of stainless steel. Hopefully never have that problem again. And then the third thing with the well is Northway Well and Pump, since they came last week, they arrived Monday, and they are now working on well number 4 with that issue that started on Memorial Day. So they're trying to get the original pump that had collapsed down the bottom of that wellhead. They're actually trying to retrieve that out. So far, they've not been able to do it, but they have a good plan going into tomorrow. Hopefully, we'll see that come to the surface. So that's really all I have. Oh, and the trailers are gone across the street.
Yay.
All right, thanks, Scott. Liz, weather report?
Yes, it is February, so that means blind date with a book month. So we encourage you to come and grab one of those wrapped books and maybe fall in love with a new author or a new topic. December marked our halfway year for the fiscal year. We have provided 281 programs for 8,534 participants in the half a year since June. So we are thrilled with that. Our staff is just amazing in terms of the different ideas. We have fun for all night on Saturday. So 6 o'clock gym games at the community center, 7 o'clock movie and popcorn. It will be under the boardwalk. Sewing 101. rescheduled that from January to February due to weather. So that will now be on February 19th. There is a registration, so it's from 4 to 7. If you're interested, go to our website. You can register for that. And we are also offering our second quarterly installment of our Mental Health 101 programs. And this time it will be on Saturday, February 24th at 10:30. It is being presented by NAMI of Johnson County, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And they're going to provide a presentation and just help everyone understand more about mental illness, what resources are available. So I invite you all to come to that.
Liz, I just want to thank you for the amazing program you guys have been providing over the last year. It's really impressive.
Thank you. I'll pass that along to our staff.
Please do.
All right, thanks, Liz. City engineer report. Hey.
And we have on here the wastewater plant update. We are looking at trying to get the planning and design loan, which is a 0% loan that we can carry for 3 years that covers the cost of planning, design, and land acquisition. That is scheduled to hold a public hearing in March. And then March 19th, we should show up on the IUP. So once we get those two items taken care of, the public hearing and the IUP standing, then we can start to draw on that loan. It's a reimbursement loan. Let's us go back and then possibly for the date we can put towards that loan. So that's moving forward. And then Scott, Dave, and I are working on trying to get some plant site visits lined up so we can look at different processes and talk with operators. We were looking to do it earlier, however, the weather had got preoccupied. So that's what I have for that. The rest of the items are on the agenda, and we'll address those at tomorrow.
All right, thank you. Kevin, Hopper. All right, moving on. We will be, we've got a annexation public hearing. Do we need to open the hearing? We need to open the hearing. Is there a motion to open the hearing, public hearing? I will open the hearing. All right, all those in favor, or do I need to get a roll call? Roll call. Yes. Yeah, I'll get the roll call. Duncan,
Yes.
Erlinger, yes. Gabriel? Yes. Kramer? Yes. Whitehead, the public hearing is now open. Tammy?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Yep, I'll take this time just to give a little background on this annexation request, because this annexation request actually came before planning and zoning back in July, so it's been a little while. Can everyone hear me, first of all, since there's quite a few folks here? Okay, thank you. We received an application from the Watts, from Raymond Griesel on behalf of the Watts Group for an annexation of 40 acres on the north side of Solon, along Highway 1. This came before the council in May as a concept. And the reason was because this is not your typical annexation where you go right to the next parcel. There's actually a couple of parcels, at least there's actually 2 parcels in between this parcel. However, it does connect and it's contiguous to Solon on the west side. So it is a clean annexation. It is a voluntary annexation. And so the concept was brought is, will the council support kind of a non-traditional type of annexation? There wasn't a lot of interest to develop at that time. There wasn't interest in at that time to develop. Now the plan is just to get it annexed. Council sent their basic approval to planning and zoning, who looked at it in July. When there's an annexation, there's also a zoning that has to happen. And the zoning that was presented was a variety of zoning, R1, some R4, R3, which is multifamily, and some commercial. Council indicated they wanted to see predominantly single family homes. However, they did want commercial along the highway. At that time, Watts Group did not have a solid plan for the commercial development. So planning and zoning, we're not comfortable bringing that in with unsure zoning, so they said they'd be willing to bring it into the city limits as R1, which is our, single family residential. During this process, there's a notification process that the city has to give a preliminary alert to Johnson County and then a formal notice to Johnson County, similar to the notice that many of you received in this room. When we sent that preliminary notice over to Johnson County, they didn't share any concerns. However, when they received the formal notice, they did talk about an area of concern on the old Iowa street. So when a city annex, we are required to annex up to half of the street. And this particular concept annexation did not show that. And so city staff, Kevin, Dave Scheckinger, and Scott Kleppe worked with the county, the county engineer, the county auditor's office, and the county attorney to clean that up, so to speak. They wanted that to be clean and clear, and they wanted half of that old Iowa street to be included. And there was a little bit of controversy and indecisiveness on the county's part, because it's also one of the original territorial roads, which had some additional rules. However, they cleaned that up. They provided opinion back to us via the assistant county attorney. So we were therefore ready to move this forward. So that process of working with the county at the county level happened between July and now, which is why there's been a time period between the recommendation from planning and zoning and the public hearing tonight, and then the formal action. That said, there are several, because of the zoning that's before the council tonight is R1. However, the council's desire is for commercial to be along the highway. Kevin Olson, our city attorney, has developed a conditional zoning agreement. And that basically says, while the city will allow this to come into the city limits as R1, the city does not want to see single family houses all on the entire parcel. They want it to comply with our future land use map, which does show commercial along the highway. So before you tonight is not the plan that was submitted to P&Z, because P&Z requested the change from zoning. So there's now two parcels, the 40 acres that Watts wants to bring in, and then the additional parcel for that Iowa right-of-way. Two parcels, all zoned R1, and it will have the conditional zoning agreement. It will require a resolution, which is one vote by council for an annexation. And then it will require an ordinance reading with 3 readings. So it'll be 3 meetings. Is there anything else?
Nope. And we will have a resolution approving the zoning agreement before we do the formal annexation.
So there's 3 actions associated with this annexation tonight, a little later on the agenda. Dave, do you want to share anything additional? I may have.
When you see that there's a portion of this that is left out, that is the area of the south. If we wanted to annex that later, works from an 80-20 perspective, so that was discussed as well. So that keeping the option open so that that landowner wants to come in. What happens is you can't create an island, so the property on the south has a certain amount of property. We have to make sure that the remaining property is only taken for some otherwise it would not be voluntary. It would create complications. So there was a discussion with respect to that. That's why you see that really along Iowa Street left off.
And for those of you who couldn't hear Dave, that was council's request, is that though the council has no intention in requiring those other 2 properties to annex, the ability to do so is there, if they so choose.
All right, having said that, is there anyone who would like to make a comment? You will have 3 minutes. I would ask that you give your name and address and please step up to the podium.
My name is Jan Buckmeyer and I live on corner of Iowa and Elm. And first of all, what does it mean that half of the Iowa Street is in this plan or whatever? I don't know what that means. That half of a street can be taken into consideration.
So
And
when a city annexes into the county, we annex to the middle of the road. And that's, is that a state?
Yeah, the county can ask that it be annexed to the middle of the road, because in the city, the cities own the streets in fee title, like you own your house. In the counties have easements for the road, so, that's why we've taken half of the road now. And we have an I believe Scott and the county, you have an agreement about who, I think the county does the snow plowing on, or you do that?
The county does on that segment.
Yeah, so they have an agreement to share, who does the maintenance on that road. Right now, the county does.
so does that mean you take the middle half or do you take the left half,
It's the.
west half or the
it's
east half?
It's the half that's adjacent to the property, so it'd be the west half.
So the west side of the street is what's going to be affected the most, not the east side.
Correct.
Okay. So that's of great concern to us on Iowa Street on the west side. Because our yards are pretty close and pretty small the way they are right now. And with the renovation of the road going on West Elm this past summer, although it's really nice to have a little bit of hard surface in front of our house, it's even closer to our, whatever the city's easement is to where our yard would officially start for our property. But, we have a short driveway, our car fits in it. And that's of great concern if that road becomes so busy that we can't even get in and out of our driveway really safely. The increased traffic, if this continues to, proceed with the plans here. And the noise and the privacy and all that from our quiet neighborhood is of great concern to us folks. So I just would like the committee to be well aware of how this is going to affect us older residents. And especially if it's coming from our side only, the west side, because we're lower already. The street was improved immensely several years ago on Iowa, which raised its elevation, and therefore lots of runoff came into our yard beginning with that. And if they do it again, it'll be even higher. Our yard will be even smaller, lower, and we'll have puddles and pools of water and debris, increased litter, and all that. So we have great concerns for this happening. We already see a great increase of traffic because people don't like Main Street. They don't want 3 stop signs. They don't want narrow traffic lines with parking. They come in from either Iowa Street from the highway or straight across Elm and fly down to the schools the way it is. So this is already busy. And so we're not looking forward to it having increased busyness. I am thinking it'll be a little better that there's going to be development on the north side. So that hopefully will keep the traffic slow at least. So these are just some of the concerns we have on West Elm Street in Iowa. Let me see what else.
Thank you very much for your comments. That's 3 minutes. Right?
Okay.
Anyone else like to speak in the public hearing?
Hi, my name is Barb Linden and my business is at 701 North Market. And I'm concerned about access to Highway 1. Is it going to go on the old highway on Iowa Street, or is there going to be a road next to the development to access up there?
Sure. So the concept that we've seen, this is all north of the creek. It's out as you exit town. There's the veterinary and there's a heating and air shop.
Yeah, well, I own a heating and air shop.
So north of that, before you get to the farm on the hilltop, That area in between there is where that's supposed to come out.
Okay,
Currently, they're looking at roughly where Iowa Street exits onto Highway 1. But DOT will have some decision on where that actually occurs. after they
yeah,
do the traffic
that's a
study.
terrible intersect, or the road curves there. So I was concerned about that. Are they going to the white area on the map that runs parallel to Iowa Street? Are they going to have access in there? Or, put separate streets in there?
That is adjacent to Iowa Street. That's not being annexed, so it won't be part of the city. That won't be something they develop.
Oh, okay. So the only way out will be up there at the corner then.
Currently, that's the only way out is where Iowa Street intersects Highway 1 at the north end. And as I mentioned, DOT is going to part of the traffic study and that may determine where that
Yeah.
intersection falls.
I think we're gonna pick up a lot of traffic. That, is going to be kind of a problem. So, well, thank you.
It'll also connect to Old Mill though, as another exit point, correct? It's the subdivision won't only have one access point to it, which is the intersection that you're
Yeah,
speaking about.
but-
It'll also be able to relieve, traffic through biking, is that correct?
But
I want to
old,
make sure that was.
yeah,
that
but
was-
Old Mill they can also exit that way.
They'll also be able to exit.
Yes, yes. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Ron Hullabar, 4488 Sutliff Road. You guys keep talking about 40 acres and on this paper here, it only says 37.81. So what is the difference?
We're being approximate, Ron.
You mean you're being more than what it will be? Is that it?
The other parcel that's part of this property that's being split off is a 2.33 acre lot of this parcel, and that's what remains in the county. So in general, we're talking about the combination of those two.
Is that the west end right here? Is that
Yes.
what you're saying is what,
Yes.
2.2 acres or so?
2.33, I think is what it says on the other parcel.
And that's where you're thinking your commercial would be?
That would not be annexed at this time.
Oh, but down the road, then that's where you're thinking the businesses will be?
I'm not sure what that use will be. That's not directly adjacent to the highway, so that's a future council decision.
Mhm.
But there's potential that it could be, it could also be.
Well, my big concern is just like, she said there too, there's gotta be two exits, right? Okay, so one will be into Mill Creek and then the other one will probably be off of the road that you're on, right? On the, the northeast corner, dumping onto Highway 1?
Yes.
All right, well, Kurt's right there and I own property right across there. Our son's gonna build a house there. That is gonna be a busy place right there. I'd like to see a plat map and find out how many homes are here. That's what I thought was gonna be tonight. Was what we're looking at. I mean, it's just zoning tonight or annexing?
That's correct. It's just zoning, or it's just annexation tonight, in the zoning. And once it goes through, and they want to start building on it, then they'll have to bring another proposal back to us.
So you could shoot that down then if you don't like it,
You're absolutely right, yes.
but you can go ahead and annex it in, no problem.
They want to have one house in the whole.
40 acres, yeah, farmstead split, that'd work for me. All right,
Yes,
thank you.
yep, thank you. Anyone else?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So I've been hearing there's two ways to get to Highway 1. Old Mill Creek is one of them. Is there gonna be something come across from that?
It'll be one from Old Mill Creek, or there'll
I'm
be.
sorry.
There'll be one entrance, right, that goes into Old Mill Creek, and one that goes to Highway 1.
I'm sorry, what entrance?
So there'll be one entrance onto Highway 1 and one entrance that goes to Old Mill Creek.
So when you turn off of Highway 1, the plan is that you can go over to Old Mill Creek
That's
and
correct.
then come down to the schools or whatever that way?
That's, yep, right, is that correct? Yeah,
So there's no decision to use the Iowa Street going out with like a bridge or anything. Go north side right now.
not that I'm.
That's not being annexed in, will be part of the city limits.
So you won't be, this isn't part of in-town Iowa Street? It's only the north of the bridge?
Right.
So you're not, because we understood that the plan was to come in and rebuild that bridge and have traffic come by us on West Elm. So you probably all thought I sounded crazy when I was talking. But so the
Right.
plan is not to do that.
Correct.
Well, that puts my mind at ease, so.
You have
Just a question.
Okay,
Could we see some information on the impact? You have the school buses down there now also. I'm not sure where they're gonna enter and exit the garage right off the highway. You're gonna have a lot of traffic coming out and crossing the Highway 1. And anyone that drives up and back from Mount Vernon can tell you, traffic comes fast down that hill. It's not like the little 25-mile-an-hour hill. They're moving. It seems to me, we would like to see more detail, maybe if you had some kind of a map up and a pointer, it would be helpful. Because I've not heard anything about any costs, any estimated impact in terms of people and houses. It's just, you're approving it. And I say honestly, respectfully, it's irresponsible. Because we don't know what this is gonna cost us. The impact of the new sewer is phenomenal for a lot of us. It's scary. And the tax is going up. And now you're gonna add another 40 acres, because we don't really know what, and we don't see any impact financially. You're asking us to commit our money to something without telling us the cost of it. I think it would be helpful if you gave us more financial information.
I guess I don't know. I don't know what financial information you're looking for. If there's a traffic study that they have to do with this, that would be on the developer. Is that correct? So if they have to do a traffic study or put in a turning lane, that's not going to be a cost. That's going to be on the city. That's going to be something that the developer is going to have to work through with the DOT. As far as the buses go, I don't believe that they're going to have another access point besides what they have right now. So, that area is going to be, I hate to say business as usual as it's changing from the commercial business that it was to being a school operation with
Under
buses
the
coming,
highway,
with coming and going out
coming,
there.
going
So,
on the highway.
but as far as the new development, if they have to do traffic studies, or add any kind of lanes, that in my understanding, that's upon the developer, correct?
Right.
And we don't know anything about employees, new employees, the snow plows, any equipment, all of these things that we're seeing add up. Animal control, which is non-existent in Solon. There are a lot of things, costs that go along with this development, in addition to Watts and everything else that's happening in town. It would be helpful for people to form an opinion if they had, some kind of an estimate of what we're gonna need in terms of leaf removal, in terms of snow plows, any new equipment, these are all costs that come out of our budget, which is committed pretty much a long way out.
Sure. No, that's understandable. As far as the hiring of employees and such, there are committees right now that are reviewing where employees are at, and each of our directors does an amazing job as to what their needs are. And as the development continues, they've all done a really good job looking forward to, we've got this much space and this is what we're gonna need to add to future budgets. So we're very, very fortunate here, one, to have such an amazing staff that, they do a really good job of looking down the road, and our personnel department, assist them with that to do this best.
And the sheriff's department also, additional costs and so forth.
Yep. Any other questions?
I've got a question. You talk about Old Mill Creek. Well, I live in the Old Mill Creek subdivision. Are you gonna have a road coming from Highway 1 into my subdivision? If so, that's gonna be a lot of traffic, which I won't like.
That is the, proposal as it is right now, is that it will go into Old Mill Creek.
Do you happen to know, where they would come in and the street name or anything?
I believe it's coming in on Vikings.
The third, yeah, there's a stub that's built out to serve this area.
So when they did that subdivision, I believe they built it, with the anticipation that it may be developed at some point, so it was stubbed out in preparation that may be added.
That's gonna put a lot of traffic in there. There's a lot of young kids that ride their bikes and have their scooters and everything there. It could be a traffic hazard, increased traffic. So that would be a serious consideration.
Thank you. Is there any other people that would like to speak on the public hearing, and then
Close it, then we'll have the motion to close it.
if there is any other, then I would entertain.
I'd like to make one more comment. Do I need to step up?
No, go ahead.
All right. That property has probably been on the market for almost 20 years, okay? Close, 15 plus. And the biggest reason it was never developed is because they weren't allowed an access onto Highway 1. That was the biggest hangup. Well, now what has changed? Then now all of a sudden, voila, you're gonna dump into Mill Creek and now you can go on Highway 1. Now, what has changed that now allowed that to happen?
One thing it was stated that they couldn't access, it was that there would probably be a turn lane required, and it was cost prohibitive to the people that were looking at it
At the time,
at the time.
and now Watts is thinking they've got plenty of money to do that.
That was made clear that that would likely be a requirement, and that's been discussed with DOT, and they've indicated that a traffic study will be done on that, and depending upon what the outcome of that traffic study is, if it wants turn lane, which likely it will, that is a reality.
So you go ahead and approve this, and it may not happen because the DOT may say no. So then you guys are gonna annex this in, and then what happens if they don't allow that?
It's a property in the city. It continues to be farmed, I would imagine, as it is now. It's just in the city instead of outside the city.
It's just amazing now that all of a sudden, things change and we get stuff pushed through. That's my comment.
All right, well, I appreciate everybody that's came out tonight and given their opinions. That's one of the things that makes this town, I think what it is that we can listen to opinions and have discussions over it. If there's no further comment, is there any motion to close the public hearing?
I'll move to close the public hearing.
I'll second. Moved and seconded. Duncan,
Yes.
Barlinger, yes. Gabriel? Yeah. Kramer?
Yes.
Whitehead?
Yes.
I waited for you this time. All right, going on to old business, we're gonna move on to ordinance 481, the ordinance amending various charters or chapters of the Solon Code of Ordinance in anticipation of codification. Is this our second?
This is the third reading.
This would be the third reading. Is there any discussion on that?
No changes, Grant. No changes from the first reading, no.
Seeing none, looking for a motion.
Move to proceed with the third reading of ordinance number 41.
Moved and seconded. Duncan,
Yes.
Marlinger, yes. Gabriel,
Yes.
Kramer,
Yes.
Whitehead.
Yes.
That motion passes 5-0. Moving on to new business is the NLC service line warranty program. Kenny?
I'm gonna pass this to Scott. He's been spearheading this project.
Okay. One of the things that we're starting to see more of, especially in the newer parts of town, is failure of the water and sewer service lines. And you know, back in the day when everything was seal coat, you know, it wasn't a big deal digging up in the street because the cost wasn't there for replacement. But now that everything is 8-9 inches of concrete, there's sidewalks in that, you know, the price tag to a resident, because they are responsible for the entire service main or entire service line from the main to their house. And we're starting to see failures. These bills, you know, can creep up to $8,000. And this is a insurance program. It is sponsored by the Iowa League of Cities. And with me on Zoom is Ashley. She is with the NLC company, and I'll let her describe exactly what the insurance program is.
Yeah, well, thanks, Scott, and thanks, the council for having me here this evening. I'm happy to kind of go over our program, how we work with cities, and then just to answer any questions that the group has as well. As Scott said, my name's Ashley Shaworski, and I do represent the National League of Cities Service Line Program. Our program, it is the only one that's endorsed by the National League of Cities, but also in Iowa by the Iowa League of Cities as well. But the company I do work for is called HomeServe, and we administer this program. And just to give you a little background of how our program was developed, is obviously we all know that aging infrastructure is an issue for cities all across the US. We know you all are doing your best to either upgrade or maintain your public infrastructure, but the homeowners portion of these lines were kind of being forgotten about. Not on purpose, but we know there is only so much that you all can do on that private side. So that is why the National League of Cities went out and did research. They wanted to make a program like this readily and easily available to cities and towns all across the US. So they went out, did the research on your behalf, and we were the company that they did choose to provide this program. So what we actually do is we would partner with a city in order to make this completely optional program available to your homeowners there. And we provide residents with optional protection on their external water or well lines, sewer or septic lines, and their in-home plumbing. And we always provide these services with a complete turnkey approach for your city, where we handle all the aspects of the program. So we do the marketing, the billing, the claims management, and customer service. And there is no cost to your city if you choose to participate in our program. And the city does receive an incremental revenue stream for their participation. What I always think is the best benefit of this program, though, is that it really does help to raise awareness. Pretty much every city that I do speak with, I hear that same type of thing, that if a resident does have some type of issue with one of their external lines, a lot of times their first call is to someone there. And I'm sure the group here has gotten calls like this in the past. And then you all are left using the city's time and dollars to send someone out just to determine that the issue is on the resident side of that line, or being the bearer of bad news to a homeowner at the worst time possible that these lines are not covered by by the city or typically their homeowner's insurance. So that is really why I think of this program as a free public awareness campaign, because all of your homeowners would receive a letter in the mail from us. And the beginning of that letter is educational. So that way, even if they don't enroll in our protection, at least in the future, you know, they're well aware of exactly what their service line responsibility is. And just that you all there at the city did try to take that proactive approach and helping to educate them of that. Also, a huge benefit of our program is that we do only use local area plumbers to do all of our repairs. And we do that for a lot of reasons. Mainly, we want to keep as much money there within your local economy as possible. But also plumbers from the local area would be familiar with your city's local codes and would make sure to do the work up to our standards and yours. which would include to get all of the proper permits for the repairs. So what would happen is if we did partner with the city, we actually develop a contractor or plumber network to serve your residents' claims. And the group could be as much or as little involved in that as they'd like to be, where some of our city partners provide us a list of plumbers that they're familiar with, already working with, or that are well known throughout the region. And some want to stay out of it. Either way would work for us. But with all of our plumbers, we do go through a vetting process, not only verifying are they from the local community, but we want to make sure they meet licensing requirements, whether it's by the city, county, or state, that they have proper insurance, but we also conduct background checks and drug screenings. We always would just want to make sure there's someone that a homeowner there always feels comfortable coming to their home and inside of their home. And as for the important thing, what our program covers is we do offer 3 completely separate and voluntary options. We offer an external water line coverage, external sewer line coverage, and an in-home plumbing. And really by partnering with us, I always just think the city's just making these options available to your homeowners there that otherwise would not be. But it is up to them if they enroll in any protection, what protection that they choose. So they're all separate, all 100% optional for them. So as I did mention previously, we do offer an external water line coverage, external sewer line coverage, and an in-home plumbing. I'm going to first start by talking about our 2 external options, just because they are set up almost identically. So if a homeowner chooses to enroll in either protection, the external water line coverage or sewer line coverage, we begin to cover those lines all the way out at your city main, all the way to where those lines would enter their home. So that way, if a resident is having an issue, whether it's broken, a cracked, a leaking pipe, a tree root issue, a clog, anything that does impede the flow of those lines. We also do cover the thawing of frozen external water lines. So if an external water line were to freeze, we would send someone out to thaw the line, but also if freezing causes damage, we do repair or replace the line as needed. What's nice about our program is the homeowner does receive up to $8,500 towards each and every repair incident. That does include the street repair, as Scott mentioned, can be pretty expensive. Street repair, sidewalk repair, all permitting costs. We follow all local and federal codes while doing repairs, and we do not have any type of service fee or deductible. Because we never want that call out fee to deter anyone from actually giving us a call and getting their issues taken care of. So again, that homeowner does receive up to $8,500 towards each and every incident. And they can have as many incidents as they need. In addition to our 2 external options that a homeowner can choose to enroll into, we also do offer an in-home plumbing. And this really was developed by request of our municipal partners, as it was that missing piece of the puzzle. And this covers any of the water, sewer, or drain lines that are in your resident's home after the point of entry that might be broken or leaking. Also does include any lines in a slab or basement floor and repair of clogged toilets. And our in-home plumbing is very similar to the external options, where there is not a service fee or deductible, no annual or lifetime limit, no limit on number of claims that they can have. And with our in-home, the resident does receive up to $3,000 towards each and every incident. And we do come to find that when someone enrolls in any of these options, they are a little bit more proactive about getting their issues taken care of. Because we often hear that, a homeowner is nervous to call a plumber because they don't know how much it's going to cost or can't find someone to come to their house in a timely fashion. With our program, they know they just make one call to us, and the cost of determining their issue and getting it taken care of is not coming out of their own pocket. And then lastly, I know the thing everyone wants to know is, what is the city's involvement in this program? So we do only market this program by direct mail. So you don't have to worry about us calling door to door, anything like that. We typically send a letter out to your residents there 2 to 3 times a year. The agreement that we enter into with the city states no more than 3 times. But that's really your involvement in the program. Is before we send anything out to a homeowner, we would customize that specifically for the city. We work with you on edits and changes that you would like to see in that letter. And then once we get the approval, we let you know the dates that we would mail those out. That way the city there always is in complete control on if and when something goes out, and is well aware of what their residents are receiving. And if we don't get approval, we do not mail. To kind of give you an idea of what that information looks like or what that letter looks like, as I mentioned previously, the beginning really is that educational piece, letting a resident know exactly what portion of the lines that they are responsible for, has a diagram so they can see, what we're talking about, as well as frequently asked questions. But it is an introductory letter where the city helps to introduce the program to its homeowners there. But it always states we are a separate company providing it, and it is 100% optional for them. The information does go out with the city's either logo or letterhead, so your residents know this is a program that you all are participating in. But on that is all of our information. Our phone number is the only number listed on there, so a homeowner can call us with questions or to sign up. Same thing with our website. They can get a lot of great information through our website, or they can return the letter to us in the mail. We know you all have more than enough going on, so we do handle all of the aspects, the marketing, the billing, the claims management, and customer service. As I mentioned before, the program is absolutely no cost to the city if you do choose to participate, and the city does receive a revenue for your participation. So what the city does receive in return for their partnership with us is actually 10% of all of the premiums collected back in the form of a revenue every January. We have a lot of partners that do different things with this. Obviously, you all could do anything that you like. Some put it into the general fund, but we also have some partners that will use it to help a resident that may be having trouble paying a utility bill from month to month, or different infrastructure projects that we know everyone's always looking for some type of additional funding. It's really however you all see fit. And then lastly, we do have over 1,300 partners across the US, or just about 1,300 partners across the US. As I mentioned before, we are endorsed by the Iowa League of Cities, but we also are partnered with the Iowa Rural Water. We do have 127 municipal and utility partners there in the state of Iowa, and we have saved your residents $39 million in water and sewer line related repairs. It's probably small for you all, but there's the list of all of our partners. I know one of our newest is not too far from you. I know Iowa City recently approved the program a couple months ago. But I know I have rambled on to you all this evening, so I'm sure you also may have some additional questions for me as well.
How do you determine who you mail to?
Sure. So we have two ways of getting our mailing list. We could, if the city wants to provide it, we can, that's the recommended way. So we can, if the city has a list and is willing to share it, it's typically the most accurate. If not, we can use public records, and we can actually purchase a mailing list. I know some of the partners in the state of Iowa didn't have access to their own mailing list to share. We worked with the counties to get that. It's really whatever's the best fit. We know not every city can provide that information or wants to share it. That's no problem for us. We can always use public record and purchase it on your behalf.
Okay, I guess the reason I ask is because if you're sending out to whoever has the water bill, and the renter says, no, I don't want it, so then the actual property owner would be the one that had to pay for it. That's why I ask it is, if we do this, are you sending it to renters where they're, and this is, I mean, no offense by that, but they're not gonna have a dog in the game.
Yeah.
If their sewer line goes out, where their landlord is, so that's why I asked that.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So what we do is we mail to the property owner address. So if they have a property within the city, then we would, the information that we need when we're purchasing a list or getting it from a city is the property address and a mailing address if it's different. But we can normally find that with the company that we used. We typically use the city zip codes with the boundaries and purchase a list if we do it that way, or if the city can provide it. So, I'm here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. If I owned a property in the city, it would mail to me here, asking me if I want to cover my property there.
This is only available to residences and not businesses?
It is for residential properties, so it can be up to a fourplex, but it does have to be a residential property.
Just on the fee structure, I'm looking down, it's listing the initial prices. How quickly do the initial prices alter? Is there any given time period where it stays stable? I see that you can't increase it more than 50 cents in a 12-month period, but once they sign that initial agreement, how often do things change from there?
Sure. So it does kind of vary. I would say they have stayed pretty stable. I know I've been here for 10 years, and some of the cities that I worked with 10 years ago still have the same pricing that is in this list. It does vary. Any increase, though, the city would be notified on that. It is guaranteed, that definitely not in the first year, but it typically doesn't. What I've seen from our partners, it hasn't increased past that first term, which is the first 3 years of the agreement. But it's not very frequent with the price increases, but it is nice to at least know in the agreement that we do guarantee that it isn't more than 50 cents on in a 12-month period. It has worked out, with our over 1,300 partners, we have been able to spread that risk and keep those prices pretty stable. Because, we know maybe 1 year's bad in your city, but, the next year might not have as many claims. It all does depend on, sometimes depends on weather and different events. So we are able to spread that risk over over 100 partners in Iowa and almost 1,300 across the US.
One of the things that attracted me to this, now is for the simple fact that we are starting to see more of this as we continue to grow, and seeing more of this in the developments that are now 20 years old, where the material, the copper material for the water service pipes, is not as equal as older copper material or US copper material, US made copper material. And we start seeing these leaks, and that's one of the worst things for me, meeting with these homeowners, expecting the city to help them out. The only thing I can offer is we will go ahead and line things up for you, but you're going to be responsible for the bill. And I don't know if you guys were aware, but in a lot of situations, we are actually paying the contractor and then being reimbursed by the homeowner, and they work out a payment plan. I know this isn't going to totally eliminate that, but hopefully people do take advantage, especially with the cost of repairs now, that they take advantage of this insurance program if they need to, and they would have that to fall back.
And I was gonna add that the utilities committee did have already had one look at this. We wanted them to look at it before it came to council, and there was definite support to bring this to council. Lauren and Steve are on that committee. Do either of you have any comments?
I would only mention, and we've had 2 or 3 of these happen in our area. And I think in almost every instant, and you've all talked about it already, the awareness of what the homeowner's responsibility is as opposed to the city. I don't think anybody really knew that the homeowner is responsible for many of the repairs that go on. And so there you sit, and I've done some investigation in my homeowner's insurance. It does not cover it, and many major insurance carriers don't cover this kind of expense unless you have a rider on your homeowner's insurance for this kind of damage. So there you sit, you either have $4,800, $5,000 sitting somewhere in an emergency fund, or you're trying to pay it off over time. This, I think, is a good option in a couple ways. One, it does increase the awareness to all of our people in the city of what these costs may be if it happens to you. And 2, there's an alternative if your homeowner's insurance doesn't cover it, which is an assumption that people should not make, that their homeowner's insurance does. This is another way of covering that expense if you don't want to pay it out of your pocket.
I share Steve's view. I think this makes a lot of sense as a person who's owned a house before. These kinds of repairs are not cheap, and most people aren't prepared to absorb that kind of cost. So I think it's great to offer this option to our residents. And I agree that the just consciousness raising around what they're responsible for and what the city is responsible for would be valuable. So I support this.
We also had, our city attorney review the contract or the agreement that we would have with NLC. And he had a couple, recommendations for changes, which, they did go back and change the agreement to accommodate.
This question I was gonna ask you. Anybody else have any discussion on this?
I have a question.
Um,
Can I know?
It's your prerogative, it's not hearing, but you can.
okay, yep, go ahead. Quick.
Okay, this will be for the attorney. Would the city providing this group information about people's addresses, wouldn't that be a violation of right to privacy?
Not necessarily, there's, almost everything is a public record, again, like you said, they can find this information online too. We're not gonna be giving out social, other identifying, if we have account numbers and anything like that, it would just be address, name and address. It would not be any other identifying thing if we had.
That was kind of my question when I asked about.
I don't even know if we would provide a list. Yeah, we don't even know if we could even provide the list anyway, so they may have to purchase the list off of public records.
So do we need, are we looking for
Would be a
motion
if you
for
want to
this?
enter into the agreement.
Is there, a motion to enter into this agreement?
I will move to enter into the NLC service line warranty program agreement.
I'll second.
Oh.
Utility Committee seconds.
All right, Gabriel and Utilities Committee, the first and second, no, and Whitehead is the second. Duncan,
Yes.
Earlier, yes. Gabriel,
Yes.
Kramer,
Yes.
Whitehead.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Next up, we'll move on to the conditional zoning agreement. It's a council discussion and possible action on conditional zoning agreement as related to the Griesel Watts Group annexation.
I can address this. So basically, what the recommendation is, what this agreement says is basically it's coming in as R1, but the developers agreeing before they do any other thing, they're going to have to, before they bring a plan in, they'll have to rezone the part to match the comprehensive plan with the commercial space that's identified in the comprehensive plan. So as you said, by approving this right now, they can put one house on here if they want. That would be the only thing.
And they still have to go through P and Z.
They have to go through a
They
site.
probably wouldn't even do that because we have a 5-acre
Yeah.
minimum, so
Okay.
they probably couldn't
So
even.
there's really
do
not a
that,
whole lot.
Right, there's not a lot
until
they could do with
So
it.
this
right
is just
now.
bringing
It's
this
just literally just
property
bringing property.
into
Right.
city, to be in city limits.
Correct.
And on the screen, you're gonna see here in a minute, the future land use plan. And it's gonna be, it's a bit of a challenge, but the pink is along the highway is deemed commercial by our future land use plan. So anything that they would bring back as a proposed concept for development must adhere to this.
And then that will go through P and Z and they'll have to. Okay. Any further discussion on council on that? We have a motion.
I'll move to approve the conditional zoning.
I'll second.
Moved by Gabriel, second by Kramer. Duncan,
Yes.
Farlinger, yes. Gabriel,
Yes.
Kramer,
Yes.
Whitehead. Motion passes 5-0. Next up is resolution number 2405 for annexation. Council discussion and possible action on resolution number 2405. A resolution on the annexation request by Raymond and Griesel by Raymond Griesel for this proposed Watts Group development.
This is just the resolution that approves the annexation of what you have on your packet.
And this is the formal annexation. Once approved, the next step is to approve the rezoning. This annexation process, after approval at city council level, must also then be approved by the Secretary of State.
Okay.
I will move to approve resolution number 24-05.
And I'll second. Duncan,
Yes.
Farlinger, yes. Gabriel,
Yes.
Kramer,
Yes.
Whitehead,
Yes.
motion passes 5-0. Next up is ordinance 482, first reading. Council discussion and possible action on the first reading, ordinance 482, on ordinance setting the zoning classification of newly annexed parcel owned by Raymond Griesel and related to the proposed Watts Group development. Do I have a motion?
I'll go again. Ordinance number, I move to approve ordinance number 482, first reading.
Now second.
Duncan,
Yes.
Farlinger, yes. Gabriel,
Yes.
Kramer,
Yes.
Whitehead,
Yes.
motion passes for ordinance 42, 5-0. Next up is Trail Ridge Estates, Part 2, construction plans, council discussion and possible action on Trail Ridge Estates, Part 2, construction plans.
Yeah, so the general process in a new subdivision is often annexation and rezoning, and then an overall preliminary plat. Often a developer wants to develop in phases, and we've seen that. That's been a typical pattern here in Solon. And so Watts Group is taking that same approach with Trail Ridge Estates, and that process includes, for each phase, it includes a preliminary plat, then construction plans are approved, then the infrastructure is installed, then there's a final plat that comes back for approval, then building permits can happen. We are at construction plan phase for Part 2. So preliminary plat has been approved, and now we're at construction plan phase. Scott and Dave review construction plans. And then upon approval of this and their associated DNR permits, then they can begin to install the infrastructure for Part 2 Trail Ridge Estates.
You guys have any issues with what's been presented on the construction plans or anything that you feel it's not?
We asked, identified a few things and asked for changes to be made.
Well, a motion for the trip or any discussion, council? We have a motion.
I'll move to approve Trail Ridge Estates Part 2. I'll second.
Duncan,
Yes.
Farlinger, yes. Gabriel,
Yes.
Kramer,
Yes.
Whitehead,
Yes.
motion passes 5-0. Resolution 2406, directing mayor and city clerk to execute alley deeds. Council discussion and possible action on resolution 2406, the resolution directing the mayor and city clerk to execute a quick claim deed and vacate alley to Spencer and Ashley Rose and Jeffrey and Jennifer Allen.
Council will recall the alley vacation request that came through from the Rhodes and Allens last year. This is along Highway 1. just between Automatic and Casey's on the east side of the street. There was an alley, or was it a street or an alley? It was an alley that came through there. They've asked for this to be vacated. Dave and Scott have reviewed it for the purpose of future planning. They did not feel it was necessary for the city to keep that for any reason. We looked at it from a utility standpoint. There are no public utilities going through there. 414 South Market is the Allen's address. I'm not sure what roads are. They're just to the north. And so after review by council, it was agreed that it would be okay to vacate that. When someone makes a vacation request, it's at their cost. So they will be ultimately billed for any city work done on this alley, but it is a process. So first it was an ordinance reading, which all 3 readings have been done and approved and published. Now we're at the deed stage. I'm going to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so usually, when you vacate something, it splits half and half. Half the alley would go to the one property and the other half would go to the adjacent property. But the Allens and Rhodes have requested that, based upon what's built there now, they're doing a split they've agreed to. So the next item on here is a plat of survey that shows which each of the property owners will get. It's not just half the road. It's sort of a
triangle.
Yeah, so it kind of it matches up with what's built there. I think there were some
Right.
issues with accesses and everything being on somebody's, closer
Yeah,
on
so
somebody's property.
The road driveway was actually on the Allen's property. It's just because of the slant of Market Street Highway 1 and how those houses were built. So rather than splitting down the middle, they want to split the alley diagonal and then share that. And then the next agenda item is they want to do a little minor boundary line adjustment to clean it up a little bit. So there's 2 agenda items here related to this. The first one is our actual vacation of the alley, and then the second agenda item is their agreement between themselves of how they want to handle that parcel.
I move to approve resolution number 24-06.
I'll second.
Duncan,
Yes.
Farlinger, yes. Gabriel,
Yes.
Kramer, Whitehead,
Yes.
motion passes 5-0. Moving on to the plat of survey. I think we've already talked about this. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve the plat of survey.
I'll second.
Duncan,
Yes.
Farlinger, yes. Gabriel,
Yes.
Kramer, Whitehead,
Yes.
Pat, motion passes 5-0. Second quarter financial update. I'm sorry, FY 23 second quarter financial update. This is the council discussion and possible action on FY 24 second quarter financial book. Should I say that one?
It's 24, I'm sorry.
You're fine. Yeah, 23 on the one, and then some 24 on the next one.
I don't know any more lots.
Yeah, part of the reports, we moved over from Excel, they just did not want to populate quite right. And so this is an update that we get in the council about every 3 months. Let you know where we're at with that. The first one that you'll see is the revenues. And this is all as of December 31st. So nothing beyond that point. Within the revenues, to kind of give you a little bit of information on that. The first column shows the departments and the funds, and it shows the budget amount for the year, then shows what we've actually collected or expended. And then the remaining balance is just what is there to reach that budget number from the year-to-date number. On the revenues, if you look at the right side of the columns, the ones that are shown in parentheses and are highlighted in green, they're just indicating some different funds or departments that have gone over that amount, so they're doing really well Yeah, that's right.
Grades come first, then it's
Overall,
time for
right
all
now,
that
as of
number.
December 31st, we've earned 57% of our budget, which is really, really good since we were looking to get at least 50%. So we're above that.
Could I interrupt a second? We're getting a lot of background noise from somewhere, a lot of voices.
Yeah.
There's no way I'll fly a solo Iowa State flag until you make those happen. That's about as good as it's gonna get. So anyway, well.
Steve, did you need me to repeat anything?
No, that's fine. I'm following along. It just became very loud all of a sudden with a lot of different voices.
So then next we'll go down to the expenditures. We sort of discussed this in our budget meetings. Really, there's only one true department that is very much in the red, and that's financial administration. In previous discussions, that's just where we have a placeholder for all our property purchases. So that's why that is so far above the budgeted line item. That's something that we're not really too concerned, as we've talked about before. Pretty much anywhere on this report, if there is not a budgeted number and there is an expense on there, that's something that we're already prepared to make transfers for. This does not reflect those transfers. As of right now, we're not concerned with any of the capital improvement, water system improvement, or wastewater treatment plant line items there. And overall, we're sitting at 68% of the expenditures used so far for this budget year. If we take into account those property purchases, if we decide to not consider those, then we're sitting at 52%. Below that, we have some bar charts to kind of give you some comparisons of where we are from last year. For the most part, they're sitting about the same. Building permits is a little bit down from last year, but we're expecting quite a bit of an uptick as the weather increases. Most of them look about the same. Lost, we're almost to where we budgeted for this year. Let's see. And really the only thing that looks different is once again the financial administration with those property purchases. Going past the bar charts, just want to show council that we have updated our investment report. You may or may not remember it, but it used to be a giant report. You can hardly see any of the columns in there. So we revamped it to make it a little bit easier for you to see. The first page gives all the information on where our CDs are, how much interest they've earned, when they're maturing, our current bank accounts of how much is in there. And we mark those as total investments. The next page kind of gives you just a visual with the pie charts. It shows you what's on demand, and that's a little bit skewed. Really, we technically have more in case of an emergency. On that first page, if you see an account or CD that has an asterisk on it, that's something that the city can draw upon if we have an emergency. So all those funds, technically we can draw upon if needed, but for the sake of the pie chart, it shows you where we're at. Below that shows you kind of where we were from the month before to where we are now. It shows you the bank accounts and if the CDs collected any interest. And then below that, it just shows our balance sheet, kind of what we're looking at there and how that has changed. And that's the update. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
That was great. So we got two more things left is the budget work session and the wage range review. Did we want to go through and do the committees and all this before that? And then that way, we take a little break and then come back and finish up these last couple things. So, council committees.
Committees have been active. Let's see. So the Utilities Committee has been, in addition to reviewing the NLC sewer utility program, they are also in the process of reviewing several of the water and sewer ordinances. So those will be coming back to council at some point. It's just really a matter of finally having some time to really dive into those water and sewer ordinances and getting them in line. Scott's been doing all the legwork on this, getting in line with our current SUDA standards and just general updates that are needed. And then the Buildings and Needs Committee is reviewing some recent appraisals that we've received. There will be a closed session at the next meeting to discuss those more in depth. The Police Committee was scheduled this week, but Brad needed to reschedule that. That's now scheduled for the 14th of February. And of course, Personnel Committee has been quite active, as you'll see when we do the next agenda item on the wage range review and wage adjustments.
Great. Susie? Not? Kim?
I'd like to first inject a finance officer report since this will be his final council meeting.
Yeah, this is my final council meeting. Yeah, as council has been told, I've given my 2 weeks notice. An opportunity that's closer to my wife's family has opened up. I will be working at North Manhattan School District as one of their business officers. And they're giving me a bunch of other opportunities as well with coaching and things like that. So just want to make it very clear for council and everyone else that I was not actively looking for a job. This kind of decision that was kind of just based on what we needed as a family at this time, as we're expecting a baby in a month or maybe less. And so I've been very, very happy here. I've been in positions before where I was frankly lied to about my current position and my growth of everything. And I haven't experienced anything like that here. Very happy to get up, come to work every day. And I just want to thank the city for giving me a shot. I wouldn't be able to have this other opportunity without it. So well, thank you.
I would just like to say thank you for all the work you've put in over the last couple of years, and you made the budget presentations a lot. I've noticed the difference just from when I came on to now, and that is deeply appreciated. And just the enthusiasm. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen you without a smile when I've come up to you. But thank you for all the work that you've done for us, and best of luck with your new endeavors.
Thank you. Yeah, congratulations. Thanks for all the hard work and I know that a lot of this stuff can be trying, but I'm sure I know we all appreciate it, and I'm sure Kami's appreciated the role you've taken to help make this whole process easier for everybody. So best of luck and that's, yeah, congrats.
I would echo the same thing, Robin. Thank you for all you've done for the city, but also your involvement with the community in your coaching. I know that's very important to you in development of things that you really are passionate about. And that does show. I would agree. Anytime I came into City Hall, you were always there. Always came forward, always had a smile. We're always very well informed with a lot of things that are going on in the city, but I know to Kami and the rest of the staff, you've been extremely helpful in the financial side of things, but probably more importantly, anything else, you're very helpful for our community in general.
Well said. Yep, we'll listen for sure.
I don't think we'll have any mayor comments tonight, so we're gonna take a little, we'll take a little break and we'll come back in a few minutes and get back after it.
Take 5.
Okay. Smoke with the guys. We got it. That's how the saying goes. Yeah.
We have Dan without a phone.
Okay, yesterday they were trying to
Almost surprised me about 15 minutes.
So bad.
It's hot. It's hot.
And
Yeah.
they thought they were
Where's the
getting
mayor?
rid of it.
He had a work engagement actually. He's in really Illinois.
Oh, well. I pushed him hard. I'm like, you gotta be there. It's like, nope, we got it.
Slip it out.
Hi, Susie.
They want someone,
I think it's the guy that coaches track, he's for football, right? He's been there like.
maybe used to,
He's
but
been there
they're
forever.
now.
I mean, I don't know if he's their AD or used to be their AD, I think.
And they, like, that's my office.
Yeah, I think he's a football coach and tracks with them.
Yeah, I think it's a new AD for them, because I think it's a, yeah, it's all, a fairly young guy.
Yeah, they had two. They had two years people that were just about coaching football. One basketball.
Yeah, they had did some fair, cool.
Yeah.
I had did some fair, they actually feel.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Go to the cemetery right next to the falls right field.
We had a home run in the. It's pretty crazy.
Wasn't any fist fights this time, was there, Ken?
No. I booked Subway this time.
Was it the same people in there?
It was the same manager, yeah. She was saying nothing, so she should. There was a fight over our last signatures. We'll share it when we're not.
I'll go with you next time. You ever see Joker? You got my guy all wrong. It's the wrong tone. Did you mother so? Yeah.
So I can start this next agenda item while everybody eats, because all you have to do is listen. If you want to go ahead and it'd be the number
Did
24.
you want to go, you want to go 20?
Yeah, I think it would be.
Okay, so number 20, resolution 2407. Is the 2024 wage range update and wage adjustments.
Thank you. So a little background, our employee handbook has a 5-year wage range review process, and 2024 January was due, the next one was due. I typically start these at the end of November, December. I collect data, and then so that early January, the personnel committee can review it and then make some decisions. The purpose for the wage range review is to create a wage range, a low and a high for advertising, we have a evaluation process, is that if a person hits the top of their wage range, rather than a 2% wage increase, they would get a 2% bonus. It's a way to manage, for the city to be able to do two things: manage wages and salaries fairly, while at the same time ensuring that we're providing competitive wages and promoting employee retention by doing so. So that process happens every 5 years. And so the personnel committee, as of the first of the year, is John and Lauren. And so as I was gathering, beginning the process, all cities have been very taxed with this new property tax process. So I was undertaking this at a time that we were already pretty buried, but also other communities. So it was a challenging time for me to ask for information from other communities, but I did get it, and I'm very thankful for that. So the format I'm going to share with you tonight is a format that we've used essentially for the last, this will be the third wage range review that I've directly been a part of. And it's a format that was developed with some other cities who, we need to share this information fairly regularly with each other, just because the other cities are trying to figure out if they're offering competitive wages. And so the process begins with identifying our local regional cities that are comparable. And what you'll see, and you don't have this on your screen, but what we start with is, we identified Lisbon, Ely, West Branch, Center Point, Fairfax, Tipton, Williamsburg, Tiffin, and Mount Vernon as our region. And then we identify some statewide cities that are similar to Solon. And we're not just looking at population, because we need to have comparables that are similar to Solon. We want to see what their growth is, and we want to see what their if they're within proximity to a larger metro type area, similar to we are. So with those in mind, I can use various site searches, census sites to identify cities within like 2,200 and 3,500 population. I can look at that data to show me the growth for those cities. And so once I identify those, then working with the committee, we identified the cities that were kind of be what we call our framework cities. And so then I send out a survey to all of these cities and ask them to share their salary information, their job titles, their education levels, any certifications, years of service, years of city experience, and then we gather that all together. And so one of the challenges that I have is our exact job titles and positions may not match another city's. And so, and there's no city that has the same job titles and structure exactly like ours. So that is where I work with the personnel committee to help identify, how these other cities compare to our positions, and we try to compile them accordingly. While one position may here is a utility specialist, it may be a water and sewer operator in another city. So we kind of evaluate, we can look at the pay, we can look at the education, we can look at certifications, we can look at their years of service and kind of create categories that we feel are good comparisons. And so we do that for region, our local region, and then we do that for state for a comparison. And then and then we kind of see where our positions rank in those two areas. And for example, and in addition, and I want to add to that, for the first time, as we're trying to determine wage ranges, this is the first time we're going to be incorporating the library. During the previous wage review, they had their own separate handbook. And if you recall, during our last major employee handbook upgrade, the library has become part of the overall city rather than have their separate. And so this will be the first time we're determining wage ranges for the library. And so in addition to population, location, growth factors, we also looked at library size. Library sizes in Iowa are given a letter based on size. And then also accreditation. So we're trying to make sure when we're comparing, we're actually comparing, similar services. The same with our wastewater treatment plant. Scott was able to provide me with a list of all the grade 3 treatment plants in Iowa that have a similar process as ours. And then in Iowa, those that have another category by DNR standards as a major or a minor. We are a minor right now by DNR standards, but when our new sewer plant will be a major. So those are the things, again, we're just trying to, find comparisons that, find good comparisons. We felt we did that we felt we had a good group of comparisons locally, and we felt we had a good group of state comparisons. And then from there, we are looking at, where does, the current wages of the city of Solon rank within, regionally and statewide. And this was where the real work really got behind the scenes with, John and Lauren, in trying to evaluate how our current wages rank, regionally and statewide. And I'm going to use, our finance officer as an example, because he's given his notice, and I don't think there's gonna be a lot of emotion tied to this conversation because of that. So currently, our finance officer regionally is ranked 3 and statewide 2. And those are the things that we looked at for each of the various, positions. And from there, really, I'd like to, that's just really the process. And then from there, I'd like to turn it over to John and Lauren to kind of talk about, their evaluation of that information.
I'll let you go first.
Oh, great. No, I thought this was actually like going through this process was very educational, and looking at comparable cities, I think we can see that Solon is in, a fair range where it needs to be. And John and I both were feeling strongly that we need to think forward and think about retention and competitive status amongst cities our size, because we want to continue to recruit and retain the amazing talent that we have right now and match our growth as well. So this process has been really, really helpful to me, and I feel really good about where we've come out on this. Cammie will talk you through the numbers, but I feel like what we've come up with is a reasonable wage range that will maintain our competitive edge while being reasonable for a town of our size.
I would agree 100% with that. Is we've got an amazing staff here, and we just want to make sure that that they're on the same playing field as their counterparts. So there is I think we're gonna recommend a little bit of increases, but I think that that as you see the numbers will justify that it's rightly deserved.
Thank you. So in the resolution, you're going to see that there are 2 charts. The first top chart is the wage ranges. And we have wage and salary band categories. And each of those categories I've listed, which departments and roles would fall under each of those categories. And then the wage ranges themselves have been calculated so that if we take the proposed wages that are on this resolution and we average our COLA going forward, and we average our merit going forward over 5 years, we don't want anyone topping out or hitting their cap too soon. Really not before 4 years, because, we want to make sure that incentive's there. If they are, then we're likely not being competitive. And so each of those categories, I've worked through those numbers with the committee and feel that those new ranges will accommodate that. And so we averaged the COLA from the last 5 years. We looked at merit raises. We added those going forward, what the impact was, and we feel that based on all current staff and maintaining a strong COLA, these are good ranges. And again, this is the first time are including the library in the wage ranges. So that was, we didn't have the same type of history that we have, but we felt like taking the current wages and then going forward, we have a good grasp on those ranges for the library. Then the second chart on this resolution is wage adjustments. So it has been the history of in the wage range review process to also make any wage adjustments for any positions identified that are not currently competitive. And so the positions that are on the resolution have identified, the committee chose a 5% for each of these positions. The intent was to move all of these positions from where they are. I mean, if a position is currently ranked 7, our goal is to move it to at least 6 in that region. The intent was to create movement, create that competitive. We also looked at averages and highs and lows for the position, and this was the recommendation. So I would say one of the things that we identified in this process is that the COLA previously discussed by the personnel committee early in the budget process was set at 3%, whereas the U.S. National Consumer Price Index is 3.7. And what we learned is that the last 2 fiscal years, for the first time ever, the city did not at least maintain the U.S. COLA. And that's probably, and that's reflected in why we have so many positions that need wage adjustments. So the carry on effect of this for the FY25 budget is that the COLA be changed from 3% to 3.7, so that we don't start off the 5 years behind in our wage ranges. As I explained to Lauren and John, that 5%, while it sounded like a lot back in the last 2 years, that 1.5%, 2% then would have cost a lot less than 5% now, 2 years later, when higher wages. And so you'll see that reflected when we move on to the FY25 budget after this. Is there anything else you think I should add, John?
No, I think that's spot on, is that when we went from, I think it was 8% last year, we did 6. You can see that, if you let's just say our arbitrary number of 100,000, we do 6% of that versus another 2% in a couple of years, you're already behind. So I think this is going to be fair and be something we can work with. And I just like to say Kami did a tremendous amount of work to get all the data that we asked for, because we kind of just kept asking for more data. So thank you for accommodating us and getting us through that process of making sure that we had all the numbers that we needed to try and make this decision.
Agreed.
Anything unreasonable on the sheets of we need to stay competitive in order to retain and recruit people to these positions, and don't want to catch ourselves behind for years into the process.
Yeah.
Do any of the directors still in the room have any further comment on it?
No, thank you. Don't you have anything? You're muted. Can't hear you, Don.
He's talking.
I'm in my second cocktail, leave me alone. No, I'm okay. Couldn't find my mute button. I'm good. I'm good.
So do we need to have a motion for this resolution then?
Yes.
I will move to approve resolution 24-07.
I'll second.
Duncan,
Yes.
Harlinger, yes. Gabriel,
Yes.
Kramer,
Yes.
Whitehead,
Yes.
passes 5-0. Moving on to our FY 25 budget work session.
So we wanted to provide a new recap tonight, which that's gonna been at your table. So, you should have a new recap, you should have a new expenditure report. Because the decisions, that the personnel committee made for the, wage adjustments, definitely impacts everything in FY 25, and that's one of the things that John and Lauren wanted to see before they made the recommendation is what is the impact to the FY 25 budget. And so Rowan and I worked to do two things. We wanted to get adjust the COLA 3.75 and then also incorporate the wage adjustments that you just approved so that so those are accounted for in this upcoming budget going forward. So the recap itself is in your packet. If you recall at the last meeting, we talked about that we do have some transfers that we still that will help offset this $119,000. We did identify, John and Lauren and I did identify there is some potential surplus in this current budget that could also help offset the wage adjustments that we could carry forward here. In general, the wage adjustment made a fairly minor impact overall because it's spread over so many funds. What we still have unknown at this point is the insurance impact. What I did provide you is the history of the insurance that Ellison has provided us. They promised to have me some preliminary numbers by tonight, but I did not receive them. So if you recall, one of the things that we needed to discuss is how much risk are we willing to budget or how much, we need to decide, how comfortable, what kind of cushion do we want for those $5,000 incidents. And so they did provide that insurance information, but I don't have the numbers. The only news I have is that they had originally told me to expect 15% increase. And they have now said that we should expect a 20% increase, which is consistent with what I've been hearing from other people. So, I was hoping we'd have those numbers and we can make some more clear decisions tonight. That's not going to obviously happen. But it does give us a good understanding of where we currently are and where we need to quickly decide to be, so at the next meeting, we're gonna really, we're gonna have to finalize things based on what we know at the time. I'm not a pro at reading these insurance claims, but I mean, it looks like we can, we now have that $5,000 deductible for each incident. I only have one incident budgeted, so we would need to keep in mind that we don't have a lot of cushion under our current circumstances. The other thing I wanted to point out is that I did provide a new certification sheet because when we adjust wages, we then adjust IFRS and FICA, and that impacts our levy. And so it's a minor change on the overall levy. the impact is really less than $3 to the average homeowner. But it does change our levy. We're at the 11 point, it does take us to 11.9934.
I think that's easy to justify though, just because, one for our, taking care of the employees. And two, even though it's the highest it's ever been, we're still number 3 in the county, or number 3 in the county. And even though it's gone up, you're still paying less taxes than you paid last year because of the rollback. So with it going up about 2 cents from the last time we saw this sheet, from the 11.08 to the 11.099. In my opinion, there's, I think you said on a $300,000 house, it's about $3, but it's still from our last year, 10.9. You're still, our residents are still paying less taxes. So it would be easy, because of the rollback, it's an easy justification, and yeah, it's higher, but you're still paying less.
So I wanted to point out that those two, the change on the change on the recap, the change on the certification. At this point, I feel like the plan that was developed at the last meeting, which was, for water and sewer, we had a plan. We did have a backup plan. General fund is kind of our primary concern right now. We really need to wait for those insurance numbers to come in to see what they are before we can really take on, get to that final stage of decision making. But I did want to take some time to go over our debt capacity, and that's the sheet that you have. And I'm happy if there's anybody that wants to go back and review any part of the expenditures or revenue. I'm happy to do that.
I have one quick question, Tim brought up during the rec director meeting, just you have been looking for extra positions, the program has been expanding considerably. If we wait until next budget season, you wouldn't have a budget for anyone else or anything else until a year and a half from now. Do you feel that you can keep the growth rate going and take on the roles that you have until that next budget season and takes effect for FY 26?
Yeah, I think so. And after we're talking about raising the prices a little bit, so off of confusion, I guess, we did raise our rec fees for our activities like $5 each. So we did end up raising things up because you guys were asking about that a little bit, but it was more confusion off of the last director, how they had it set up in the system. But everything got raised up like $5 per activity, so.
Okay, well, what I wanted, since you're a 2-person department,
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that we were avoiding burnout. We have 1 full-time, 1 part-time staff, and just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, and Ethan was very grateful of the raise too, so.
Yeah.
And Brody and I just talked about this. A full-time person is just not an option right now. But is there an opportunity for a second regular part-time person? Because his biggest challenge is that he's dealing with high school kids and college students, and it's constantly rotating. It's very difficult to get continuity in a department when your staff is, you have 1.5 staff, and then the rest of them are in constant rotation. So I know that that's something that is important to him to build toward, is even if it's a second permanent part-time staff person, that's somebody who's just not at that high school or college level that are, that is that constant rotating position. I think that would help.
Yeah. It just helps with the overall scheduling because we have activities in the morning now. And like some days I'm here from like this morning, I get here at 9 and I'm gonna be here until 8, whatever. But I mean, that's just how it goes some days, but it'd be easier if, you had someone to schedule throughout the mornings rather than a high school college kid that can never be there in the morning. And then I have Ethan that can only work 30 hours a week. And it's hard to work around 30 hours a week when you have weekend activities like basketball and, other things like that. So I don't want to push him over his 30 hours a week. And it's just, it's a balance, but it's easier to balance with either 2 full-time people or 2 permanent part-time and a full-time person. But yeah, that makes sense.
And one more comment, since I've been here, there's been plenty of people that have come up and say, oh, I'd love to volunteer my time wreck, but they never have any follow through. So if there's a way that the city can kind of really find a way to get those people to come out and actually volunteer time and free up Brody and his staff a lot. Like, cause the people said, I'm willing to sit in the community center and have it open longer for people. But then when you try to reach out to them, nothing happens, or they forget that they offered that, and so it'd be maybe something for the city to find some like, if someone actually does follow through with that, to really thank them and really promote that person for giving their time and make it shown that the city really does appreciate their help. Cause that would go a long way for his department, especially as we're trying to get some more funds in to get another full-time employee to really help. That volunteer hours would really be nice.
But no action needed on this specific budget to get.
No,
you-
I understand that it's a big ask on, this budget, but yeah, no, that's kind of just my long-term vision here, so.
And I did reach out to the Silver Cord for you guys, so, I can get you a name for that too, so you can also
Perfect.
email the gal that takes care of that and maybe get some more help, so. But
I have a daughter who would love some volunteer hours. I'm confident we can get you some help.
All right, if there's no other review of anybody, then I just wanted to make sure we review the debt capacity and our bonds. The section on the expenditure pages are difficult often to understand, and this is a little bit easier to digest. We then take this information and put it into the expenditure report accordingly. How bonds work often is, a GO bond has to all be paid out of debt service. So regardless of where the money's coming in, whether it's coming in lost or coming in TIF, we have to collect that money there, then transfer it to debt service. And that's why it's kind of difficult to follow on the expenditure report. Then we have revenue debt. If it's a revenue bond payment. If we have a revenue, then it's paid out of the actual fund, either water or sewer. So what you have here is just our GO bonds. We currently have on this sheet, you'll see we have 6 GO bonds.
Can you hear me, Steve Duncan?
And now, yeah.
Okay,
Definitely there.
we lost the city hall. We lost the city hall computer. We lost the city hall computer, Lauren, but we're just gonna go
No
ahead.
problem.
We're still recording. We're just gonna finish up. We're about done. We're just
No
gonna
problem.
finish up as on my laptop. We can still hear you. Can you hear
Okay,
me?
great. Yes, absolutely. We're good.
Okay. So we're on that debt capacity analysis page, and I just wanted to make sure everybody has a good understand of those expenditures related to our bond payments. The first GO bond listed is the 2022A, and that is our Fifth Street bond. That bond is, the last payment on that bond is FY 33. And we currently pay that bond with local option sales tax. The next one is GO bond 2021B. and that is for the fire station. That last bond payment is 2037. Geo bond 2021A is our North Trunk Sewer. That bond is paid partially by TIF. Oh, I'm sorry, back to the fire station bond. A third of that payment is paid by the agency, and then the other 2/3 is paid by local option sales tax. Then Geo bond 2021 is our North Trunk Sewer. That's where 54% of that line is in the city limits, 44% or 40, I'm sorry. 56% of that line is in the city limits, 44% is outside of the city limits. Outside of the city limits is covered by lost, inside the city limits is covered by TIF, because you can't use TIF outside the city limits. And then that last bond payment is in 2030, or I'm sorry, 2030. My eyes are going, 31. Then the next one is 2017 SRF. That is our ground storage reservoir, and that is paid through TIF. Last payment in 2036. Then the next two are 2017 A bond. This year is our last payment on that, and that was combined street projects with the purchase of City Hall. It's called a refunding bond, and then the last payment is this year. And then the 2012 A bond is another street improvement bond, and this is the last year. And then we have one other bond not on here, and that is a revenue bond, and that's for well 4. And next year is the last payment on that bond. And so what you'll notice on the last column of this is our percent debt of the legal limit. And you'll recall when Heidi Kuhl was here in December, how she talked about our debt capacity. And you'll see how our debt capacity, as these bonds are paid off, improve. And that's what we want, because our goal is really try to get that debt capacity to a place that we have plenty of debt capacity for the new wastewater treatment plant. Typically, they recommend having at least 25% of your availability for an emergency. We've always used 35% as kind of our gauge. And right now we have 42% available. Or I'm sorry, flip, we're using 42%. We have plenty of, we're actually looking good. I mean, but that was planned. One of the reasons was we thought that our TIF sunsetted at 2024. It's now perpetual. So we structured all of our debt for a lot of years to end at 2024. So that put us in a good position unknowingly to be in the good position that we are now. So anyway, that was really the last piece of the budget that I wanted to make sure we took time to review, because going forward, and just to correlate this page with your expenditure report, it is in the debt service section of your expenditure report if you were interested in looking at it in a little more in depth. It starts on page 5, and then you'll see I'm sorry, wrong report. It starts on page, and we have to list these with interest and principal, which is why these numbers won't line up without doing a little math. Let's see. Page 10. So you'll see a lot of numbers. They don't necessarily jive with these because we have to report the principal and the interest separate, and then interest is ×2. And so it just gets a little confusing. So it makes more sense to just look at this than to try to look at those expenditure pages. And that's all I have for tonight. It's before 8 o'clock, so we're doing good. Though we could meet next week on Valentine's Day, I don't think we should. I think we should plan to just do another long meeting as needed on the 17th and just get things wrapped up. Because at this point, we're gonna have to, I'm gonna have to start sending things over to the county for that new publication process and mailer that they have to send out. And once again, we have to have a high levy rate. We're not gonna exceed. So if for some reason if for some reason we end up below 11.99, fine. We just can't go above 11.99 for a levy. Does everybody understand?
I would rather
What?
be here than on Valentine's Day with my wife.
I'll send you an email. And just to clarify, the meeting will be on the 21st.
I'm sorry, it's the 17th. Is it the 17th?
21st.
I don't know where I got the 17th.
17th.
Okay,
So
21st.
21st.
Yeah, I think it's January was the 17th. That's what's in my head. So 21st. Yep. All right. So that's all I got unless anybody has any other anything else they want to.
I do think the 11.99 is gonna more or less.
11.099. You know, I'm concerned about the insurance numbers, but we have budgeted a little bit of cushion in here. If it comes in over what we budgeted, then yeah, we're gonna probably have to have some conversations, but I think I mean, it's just gonna be, I mean, most of it's gonna have to do with our general fund, and we're gonna just have to have those conversations. We don't have to rehash all of this again. It's just gonna be identifying, you know, what are our true needs and what can we either push back another season or find an alternative funding source. We do have some projects in there that, like I said at the last meeting, we're in the process of doing transfers from the end of last year. They're just complicated and they're time consuming. So I'm hopeful there's going to be some surplus available that can help offset some of the projects that we have in this, like that church wall. And that's going to help a lot. So.
Tammy, is there any reason given why our insurance carrier is not getting us the information as you ask them for it?
Because it's not due till April. I'm asking really ahead of when they normally do this. They're just starting their calculation season. This is just at the time now they would start figuring it. I just need to know now. Typically back in November, they give me a percentage. I check in again in January. They say yay or nay. I'm asking for more concrete numbers this year than I typically have. I don't think they're off schedule. I think our schedules just don't match, and that happens a lot.
Okay.
One thing that I did see on the insurance where it said that claims, looks like we've had 33 in the last 10 years. So we're averaging about 3.3 a year. So if we just play conservative and bring that 11.099 up a little bit, and then we can always bring it back. I would more prefer sign that saying, let's just plan on having 3 occurrences. Just because that's what some of the numbers they sent over, that's what it looks like. And then they come back and say, well, you only really need a schedule for 1, then we've already got that number. Whereas if we only plan for 1, and then we got our number in, and then like 2 more occurrences. We can make that.
I feel like at the point, the community should have a very strong feeling about this. You guys having to be just a little bit higher in order to kind of cover the unknown and like that. Just right back down.
Yeah, you can always come back down, but we can't go back up. In my opinion.
And I think education's going to be a big part of this.
Yes.
You know, really helping people understand what these numbers are and how they're calculated. So we can work on creating some real educational, informational talking points and, you know, just budget, just budget 101, property tax 101 type information to help explain it.
Definitely. I think that would help a lot.
Well, I think we're done.
What do you know? Do we need a motion?
We got one on the table, we need a second.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Bye, guys. See you next
Bye.
in 2 weeks.
Yep, 2 weeks. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.